What if I told you that there's a mineral you have in your kitchen right now that the ancient Egyptians believed to be the key to healing the body and soul? Knowledge so powerful that it was locked away in a forbidden book, the Grimoire of Thoth, and hidden from the world for millennia. This isn't a video about seasoning, it's about a secret code hidden in plain sight within the structure of a simple salt crystal. Today I will reveal to you what is written on these lost pages. I will show you how a desperate monk broke an ancient seal and discovered that salt is not what it seems. He found the first instruction, that which you use for seasoning is, in fact, the architecture of light. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover in the next few minutes could completely change how you view the healing, energy, and power you already hold in your hands. This is the secret they didn't want you to know. If you believe that ancient knowledge can change lives, comment salt is the key. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below to accomplish the miracles of one thing. Imagine a place forgotten by time, an ancient monastery where the silence was so profound you could hear the dust settling. It was there, in an underground library, that a young monk named Thomas felt something calling to him. It wasn't a voice, but an attraction, an energy that pulled him to a dark corner of the room. Beneath the creaking floorboards, he found something that shouldn't be there, a book that didn't exist in any catalogue, wrapped in leather worn by time, cold as a river stone. There was no title, only a wax seal in the center, and inside it a single grain of salt that seemed to glow with its own light, almost like an eye watching him from the past. Thomas's curiosity was great, but what drove him was despair. Every day he saw people arriving at the monastery with bodies and souls ailing. They suffered pains that no doctor could explain, a profound sadness that no prayer seemed to reach. He felt that traditional medicine and the faith he knew were insufficient. A piece of the puzzle was missing, a key lost. On the book's cover, an almost faded phrase whispered a warning. Whoever breaks this seal accepts what is to come. It was a warning, but to Thomas it sounded like an invitation, a promise that the answer he so desperately sought to alleviate the suffering he witnessed might be there. With trembling hands, he pressed the seal. The wax cracked with a dry snap, and a scent that didn't belong there filled the air. It was the smell of an ancient ocean, of wet stone, and of a storm brewing on the horizon. The air around him seemed to change, to become denser, charged with an energy he had never felt before. As he opened the first page, a single sentence leaped into his eyes, not like ink on paper, but like a revelation that ignited directly in his mind. The message was short, but it shook everything he thought he knew about the world and the matter that composes it. The phrase read, "That which you use to season is, in fact, the architecture of light." At that instant, Thomas understood that he did not hold in his hands a simple prayer book or an ancient record. This object was different. It did not contain merely words. It contained a power, a wisdom that had been deliberately hidden from the world. The phrase echoed in his mind, and he began to look at the world around him in a different way. Salt, that common white powder that everyone used without thinking, suddenly seemed to hold a monumental secret, a truth about the very structure of reality. He realized the book wasn't a passive object. It was a portal. That broken seal hadn't just opened a book. It had opened a door to knowledge that could heal, but also be dangerous. The warning on the cover now made perfect sense. He had accepted what was to come, without having the slightest idea what it would be. The search for a cure for others had placed him on a path from which there was no return. What was that book? And what power did the architecture of light conceal within a simple grain of salt? The answer seemed to lie within the following pages, but the first revelation had already transformed him. The cure he sought wasn't in herbs, potions, or known rituals. It was hidden in plain sight, disguised as the most common of minerals. The book seemed to have been written by Thoth himself, the Egyptian god of wisdom, the scribe of the gods. Thomas was about to decipher a code that humanity had forgotten, a secret about the sacred geometry that connects the body, the soul, and the universe. But to understand this language, he would first need to unlearn everything he knew. The secret code inside a grain of salt. The Grimoire was not a book of stories, but a manual of systems. Thomas understood that each salt crystal is a microcosm, a mirror of the order of the universe. Its cubic geometry is not accidental, but a signature of the intelligence that organizes matter. Salt, the text of Thoth taught, is the visible form of a fundamental energetic pattern, a bridge between the invisible world of energy and the physical world we can touch. He was not reading about chemistry, but about the very architecture of reality. The manuscript revealed that the crystalline structure of salt is functional. It possesses the ability to record, store, and amplify information, acting as an organic and living hard drive. Salt functions as a bridge between spirit and matter, an anchoring point where energy becomes tangible. Thomas realized that the healing he sought was not in creating something new, but in reactivating a lost cellular memory, using salt as a tuning fork to restore the body's original frequency. Illness, whether in the body or soul, is a misalignment of the geometric and vibrational patterns that compose us. Salt, with its perfect geometry, doesn't directly cure, but reminds the body of its original state of health. It's a form of vibrational medicine, an ancient technology that operates on principles our science is only beginning to explore. Healing doesn't come from the outside, but from within, by using this crystalline language to reorder the body's energy matrix. The great revelation was that salt is a language, a form of direct communication with the body's intelligence. Light and information solidified in the form of salt so that we could interact with them. Using salt is not a trivial act, but a dialogue with the very structure of the universe, a way to reprogram the body back to its state of equilibrium. The question burning in Thomas's mind was, how to use this language to speak to the cells? The Grimoire made it clear that salt was the key, but the ignition to start this engine lay elsewhere. Before using the tool, it was necessary to awaken the latent power within the operator. The book guided him to the next revelation. Salt is the physical body of a much greater power, an invisible fire that animates all matter. Learning to ignite this inner fire was the true beginning of the journey and the essential step to using the language of crystals. As I continued reading, the mystery deepened. The Grimoire described salt with an enigmatic phrase: "Salt is sleeping fire." Not the fire that burns and destroys, but a primordial fire, the pure energy of creation that has been captured and solidified in the structure of the crystal. This inner flame, according to the text, is what prevents life from corrupting. what preserves order amidst chaos. It is the force that maintains the integrity of a cell, the memory of a seed, the structure of a body. Without this fire, everything would disintegrate back to dust. Ancient alchemists, in their quest for the philosopher's stone, already knew this. For them, reality was sustained by three essential principles: mercury, representing the mind and spirit; sulfur, representing the soul and emotions; and salt, representing the physical body. Salt was the element that gave form, that anchored the spirit and soul in matter, guaranteeing stability and incorruptibility. Without the principle of salt, the mind and soul would have no vehicle to exist in the physical world. Salt was the body of the universe. The manuscript then revealed a method, a ritual so simple it seemed almost unbelievable. It was a spiritual science to awaken that inner flame that resides in each of us. When the soul feels heavy and the body tired, the text instructed, "At dawn, place a single grain of rock salt under your tongue. Do not swallow it, just feel it dissolve. As it merges with your body, affirm in your inner silence, 'May my truth be incorruptible, may my light be preserved.'" This act, the book explained, was much more than a symbolic gesture. By doing this, you weren't just ingesting a mineral, you were activating a resonance. The salt, with its vibration of order and purity, came into direct contact with the bloodstream and nervous system, sending a signal throughout the body. It was like tuning a musical instrument that was out of tune. The command that my truth be incorruptible was not a prayer, but a direct order to your cells, realigning your energy with the original pattern of health and vitality. It was a reminder to the soul of its eternal nature and to the body of its capacity to regenerate. It was a way to halt the decay, not only of the body, but especially of the spirit. The wear and tear of daily life, stress, fear, all of this generates a kind of energetic rust that consumes us. Salt, with its preserving fire, acted as a spiritual antioxidant, cleansing this corrosion and restoring the luminous essence that exists within us. Thomas understood that this practice was the basis of all healing. Before anything else, it was necessary to strengthen and preserve one's own vital force, the flame that keeps us alive and conscious. But the Grimoire made it clear that simply preserving this flame was not enough. The human soul carries wounds, memories, and unresolved emotions, like oceans of tears that were never cried. These stagnant energies weigh on the spirit and block the flow of life. Preserving the flame was like protecting a candle from the wind. But if the wax was dirty, the light would be weak. For complete healing, it was necessary to purify the wax. And for that, it was necessary to understand the sacred and powerful relationship between salt and the element that represents all our emotions: water. Where water and salt unite, life happens. The Grimoire called this union sacred matrimony, the first covenant of creation. This fusion occurs not only in the oceans, but within us. An ancient navigator quoted in the book made a shocking discovery. Our blood, sweat, and tears have the same salinity as the primordial sea. His conclusion was simple: we are not beings of the land. We are oceans that have learned to walk. This revelation transformed Thomas's perspective. Our body is not a machine, but an aquatic ecosystem, a walking inner sea. In this alchemy, water represents emotion, flow, and adaptation. Salt, in turn, is the structure, consciousness, and information that gives shape to this flow. Together, they create the balance that sustains life, because one cannot exist healthily without the other. The problem, the text explained, is that modern life has taught us to repress our emotions, to swallow our tears. By doing so, we disconnect from our oceanic nature and our inner waters stagnate. Unprocessed emotions become toxins that poison the body and mind, creating blockages that manifest as anxiety, depression, and physical illnesses. Healing, therefore, depended on getting the inner tides moving again. The book taught a simple practice for this, the inner sea ritual. At dawn, dissolve sea salt in a bowl of pure water. Immerse your hands in the mixture, close your eyes, and feel the ancestral memory contained there. The act was an invitation for trapped emotions to surface and be released. A signal to the soul that it was safe to feel again, allowing the inner waters to wash away accumulated pain and fear. However, the grimoire ended with a serious warning. This inner cleansing is like opening the windows of a house that has been closed for years. The light enters, but the movement attracts attention. There are forces that feed on chaos and fear. By raising your vibration, you become a point of light that attracts the attention of darkness. Therefore, before continuing the healing process, it was absolutely essential to learn how to protect yourself. The invisible barrier. The knowledge contained in the grimoire went far beyond healing the body. It taught about the physics of energy and how to create protection. Salt, the text explained, does not function as a material shield that blocks a physical attack. It acts in a much more subtle and powerful way. It functions as a tuning fork that reorganizes the vibrational frequency of a space or a person. Where there is disorder, fear, or negative energies, the perfect crystalline structure of salt imposes a pattern of order and harmony simply by being present. Chaos cannot exist where perfect order manifests. The book told the story of a monk named Grimoire who was called to help a family in a house tormented by inexplicable phenomena. Doors slammed, objects moved, and a constant feeling of fear hung in the air. Grimoire didn't use prayers or complex rituals. He simply took a bag of coarse salt and calmly drew a perfect circle on the floor of the main room, sitting in the center to meditate. The result was immediate. Inside the circle, peace was absolute. The air was light and silent. Outside, the chaos continued, but it was unable to cross that white, crystalline barrier. Salt doesn't fight darkness. It doesn't expel it. It simply creates a field of energetic coherence so strong that low and chaotic frequencies cannot sustain themselves in its presence. It's like trying to play a discordant note in a perfectly tuned orchestra. The dissonance is naturally corrected or repelled. The perfect geometry of the salt crystal generates a force field that interrupts the vibrations of fear, anger, and confusion, reminding that space or that person of their original frequency of light and balance. However, the manuscript contained a crucial warning, a fundamental rule that determined the success or failure of its use. Salt is an amplifier. It does not judge. It only intensifies what is already there. If you use it with a serene heart, with a clear intention of peace and harmony, it will amplify that light exponentially, creating a fortress of protection. But if you use it with fear, anger, or doubt, it will amplify that confusion, possibly even worsening the situation. True protection lay not in the mineral, but in the purity and strength of the intention of the one who handled it. Protecting your physical space, such as your house or your room, was the first and simplest step. A little salt in the corners of the rooms, or a circle drawn around the bed before sleeping already created an effective energy barrier against external influences. But the Grimoire taught that this was only basic protection. True mastery lay not in protecting the space around you, but in protecting something much more valuable and intangible: your time, your memories, and your own consciousness. The book suggested that, just as salt could create a barrier in space, it could also be used to seal and protect moments in time. This seemed impossible, but the Grimoire was about to reveal how the structure of salt could interact with consciousness in an even deeper way. Protecting the environment was only the beginning. The next step was learning to use salt not as a shield, but as a vault, a stone capable of recording and storing the essence of your thoughts and intentions, transforming a simple crystal into a living archive of your soul. Deep within the earth, in salt mines millions of years old, the crystal walls seem to murmur with the echoes of time. The Grimoire called these places the Library of Silence. The reason for this, the text explained, lies in the perfect molecular structure of the salt. This crystalline geometry not only creates order, but also functions as a natural recording device. It is capable of capturing and storing vibrations from the environment, such as sound, light, emotions, and even thoughts. Every word spoken, every song sung, every intense feeling experienced near a salt crystal leaves an energetic imprint on its matrix. This property was known and used by sages from various ancient cultures. The Celtic Druids, for example, placed small crystals of salt under the tongues of the dying. They believed that the ultimate truth, the accumulated wisdom of a lifetime, would be imprinted on the crystal at the moment of death. These crystals were then kept as sacred relics. Tibetan monks meditated for years holding the same piece of Himalayan pink salt, imbuing it with the vibration of their mantras and the state of profound peace they achieved, so that others could benefit from this energy afterward. The manuscript then taught how anyone could create their own memory crystal or power stone. The process was intimate and based purely on intention. Choose a salt stone that catches your attention, the text said. It can be a coarse salt crystal or a salt lamp. Hold it between your cupped hands, close to your heart, until the warmth of your blood and energy awakens it. Feel the stone as an extension of yourself. It is empty, waiting to be programmed by you. The next step was programming. You were to close your eyes and concentrate intensely on the quality or memory you wished to store. It could be the vibration of courage you felt in a moment of overcoming a challenge, the peace of a happy day, the clarity of an important decision, or the energy of love for someone. You were to relive this emotion in every cell of your body, and through your breath, exhale this energy into the crystal. Your focused intention acted like a laser, engraving this specific frequency into the salt structure. Once programmed, the stone became a living archive of your own consciousness, a physical and energetic reminder of your inner strength. Whenever you felt weak, afraid, or confused, you simply held your memory crystal. The vibration you recorded in it would be released and resonate with your energy field, instantly reminding you of that strength that already exists within you. It was a way of anchoring your best states of being in matter, so you could access them whenever you needed to. The memory was now stored and protected, but the Grimoire, always moving the journey forward, revealed that the deepest healing came not from keeping the good memories, but from releasing the painful ones. Maintaining the energy of courage in a crystal was useful, but what to do with the energy of sadness, loss, or trauma that was also stored in our bodies? The book asserted that these memories could not simply be erased. They needed to be released, and the key to this release was the best-kept secret about salt, a revelation that would connect everything Thomas had learned up to that point. The mineral that heals body and soul. This was the central point of the Grimoire, the great revelation that undeniably united the spiritual and physical worlds. Salt is not just a symbol, an energetic tool, or a protector. It is an essential biological component for healing the body and, consequently, the soul. The manuscript revealed something that science is now beginning to confirm. Each type of tear we produce has a different chemical composition and crystalline structure when viewed under a microscope. Tears of pain form chaotic patterns, while those of joy and gratitude form beautiful and ordered geometries. Crying, therefore, is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of alchemy. It is the body transforming emotional pain into liquid matter so that it can expel it from the system. Emotional tears, unlike tears that merely lubricate the eyes, are rich in stress hormones and other toxins that accumulate in the body due to emotional distress. Each salty tear is, literally, the body ridding itself of a poison. It is the purest and most efficient form of emotional detoxification, a cleansing that begins in the soul and ends in the body. But the book's most impactful revelation was about the relationship between salt and blood. The Grimoire described blood as the sea that the soul carries within, a river of life and consciousness whose fire is kept burning by the perfect balance of minerals, primarily salt. Sodium, present in salt, is not a villain. It is the mineral that regulates blood pressure, allows nerve impulses to travel through the body, and enables muscles to contract. Without the correct balance of salt, the heart doesn't beat, the brain doesn't function, and life ceases. The cure promised in the video title was therefore not a magical or abstract cure. It was profoundly biological and energetic at the same time. Salt, in the right amount and from the correct source, such as whole sea salt or pink salt, is the mineral that allows the physical body to maintain its electrical balance and heal itself. At the same time, its perfect crystalline structure helps the soul to energetically rebalance itself, like a tuning fork that restores harmony. The health of the body and the health of the soul are not two separate things. They are the same thing, seen from different angles. The Grimoire taught that maintaining the body's saline balance was the first and most fundamental step in healing the soul. Drinking enough water with a pinch of quality sea salt, for example, was described as a sacred act of rehydration and remineralization, which restored the body's electrical conductivity and allowed vital force to flow without blockages. It was simple, direct, and profoundly effective. Physical health was the platform upon which spiritual health could be built. However, the book acknowledged that there are pains so ancient and deep that not even tears can completely wash them away. There are traumas that settle in the darkest layers of the psyche, shadows that cannot simply be released. They don't need to be cleansed, they need to be transformed. And for this transformation, the Grimoire presented a different kind of salt. A salt born of fire and darkness, capable of guiding a person through the darkest night of their soul so that they could be reborn. On the slopes of active volcanoes, where incandescent lava meets the salty water of the sea, a special type of salt is formed, volcanic black salt. The Grimoire called it the salt of rebirth. Its dark color does not come from impurities, but from the activated charcoal present in the lava, a powerful purifying agent. While white salt cleanses and purifies the surface, black salt acts differently. It transmutes. It does not remove darkness, it absorbs it and transforms it into light. This salt represented the most feared and necessary journey of alchemy, the nigredo, the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is a process where the individual